When we talk about the gut, most people think digestion, stomach acid, nutrients, maybe a little bloating here and there. But what if I told you your gut is also a command center for your emotional health, your mental clarity, your sense of well-being? That it doesn't just digest food, it digests your experiences, your stress, and yes, even your joy. This isn't just poetic language, it's biology. And it begins with a remarkable system scientists have come to call the second brain. Inside your digestive tract is a vast network of over 100 million neurons. That's more than in your spinal cord. This complex system is known as the enteric nervous system, and it operates largely independently of your brain. It regulates digestion, motility, blood flow, immune response, and hormone production. But more than that, it communicates continuously and directly with your brain. It sends signals up and down the vagus nerve, influencing your thoughts, your emotions, your perceptions of the world. You've probably felt this without realizing it. That sinking feeling in your stomach when something bad happens, that's your enteric nervous system reacting before your conscious mind even has time to process. Those butterflies before a big event, that loss of appetite under stress, these are not coincidences. They are proof that your gut is thinking, reacting, and informing your brain. And it's not a one-way street. The brain talks back. What you think, feel, and worry about affects your gut function, sometimes profoundly. Anxiety can tighten the gut, depress digestion, even alter the balance of bacteria in your intestines. Depression can slow motility and lead to nutrient deficiencies. And this way, the gut and brain are in a constant dance, sensitive to each other's cues, feeding off one another's health or dysfunction. Now, the deeper question is, what does that mean for how we live? It means we have to stop separating mental health from physical health. It means that mood isn't just created in the brain. It's born in the body. It means that the food we eat, the thoughts we entertain, the stress we carry, all of it lands somewhere, and often it lands in the gut first. This enteric nervous system is more than just a relay point. It's a filter, a translator, a sentinel. It scans your internal environment constantly. And the messages it sends upward shape your reality. If your gut is calm, nourished, and balanced, it sends safety signals. You feel grounded, stable, focused. But if your gut is irritated, inflamed, or out of balance, it sends alarm signals. You feel restless, foggy, anxious, disconnected. The difference between those two states isn't just psychological, it's neurological and biochemical. In fact, nearly 90% of the body's serotonin, the neurotransmitter most commonly associated with happiness and mood, is produced in the gut. Think about that. The very chemicals that determine whether you feel joy, optimism, or emotional resilience are being made not in your brain, but in your digestive tract. And that production is deeply influenced by what you eat, how you digest, and whether your internal environment is in harmony. So when you're reaching for that sugary snack in the middle of an emotional low, understand that the cycle is both physical and emotional. Poor food choices compromise gut function, which in turn weakens mood regulation, which leads to more poor choices. Breaking that cycle starts by recognizing where it begins, not in your willpower, but in your biology. And there's a philosophical side to this too. The gut is where we receive the outside world. Every bite of food, every nutrient or toxin passes through this threshold. Your gut is where the external becomes internal. It's where the world becomes you. That's a sacred process if we really pause to think about it. It means what you consume, literally and metaphorically, shapes not just your physical body, but your emotional reality. And maybe that's the deeper invitation here. To start living in a way that treats the gut as more than just a tool for digestion, to recognize it as a part of your emotional intelligence, to feed it with care, to listen when it whispers that something is off. Because it will whisper. The gut always speaks. It's just that most of us never learn to listen. But we can learn, and in that learning we reconnect to a rhythm that modern life has all but drowned out, a rhythm of internal coherence, of mental clarity rooted in biological truth, of emotional wellness born in the body's own wisdom. So the next time you feel anxious, off balance, or emotionally drained, don't just look to your mind for answers. Ask your gut what it's trying to say, because your second brain might be the one with the insight you've been missing all along. Let your gut lead the conversation. It remembers what your mind forgets, and it just might be the key to healing not only your mood, but your whole way of being. Now that we understand the gut as a second brain, an intelligent, independent system influencing our emotional world, let's zoom in on one of the most fascinating players in this story, the microbiome. This vast, invisible ecosystem of bacteria, viruses, and fungi living in your digestive tract is not just part of your biology, it's a critical partner in your mental well-being. We often think of bacteria as something bad, something to fight, sterilize, remove, but in the context of the gut, bacteria are not intruders, they're residents, essential ones. In fact, for every human cell in your body, there are about 10 microbial cells. That means you're actually more microbe than human, biologically speaking. And when these microbes are in balance, they do something extraordinary. They help your body manufacture the very chemicals your brain uses to feel happy, calm, motivated, and connected. Also, the reverse is true as well. Your normal brain manifests the major medications. Let's take serotonin, often called the feel-good neurotransmitter. About 90% of it is produced in the gut, primarily with the help of certain beneficial bacteria. Dopamine, another key chemical involved in pleasure and reward, is also influenced by the gut microbiota. Even GABA, a calming neurotransmitter that helps reduce anxiety, is tied to the health of specific microbial strains. What this means is that your ability to experience joy, manage stress, and think clearly is deeply dependent on the microscopic life living within you. When your microbiome is diverse and thriving, it supports emotional stability and cognitive sharpness. But when it's thrown out of balance by processed foods, antibiotics, chronic stress, or environmental toxins, those mood-supporting chemicals start to dwindle. Inflammation rises, communication between the gut and brain becomes distorted. And the result? You may feel more anxious, more depressed, more reactive. This is not just theory. Study after study has confirmed the link. In people with major depressive disorder, there are often measurable differences in the composition of gut bacteria compared to healthy individuals. When researchers introduce certain probiotic strains, often called psychobiotics, into the diet, participants report improvements in mood, stress resilience, and even sleep quality. This isn't just nutritional hype. It's neuroscience, it's psychiatry, and it's the future of how we care for the whole person. But here's where things get especially meaningful. Your microbiome is shaped every day by your choices. It's not fixed, it's responsive. What you eat, how you move, the quality of your sleep, the way you handle stress, all of it either feeds or disrupts the microbial community in your gut. Every bite of food is a vote for the bacteria you want to cultivate. Fiber-rich foods, vegetables, fruits, legumes, serve as prebiotics, nourishing the beneficial microbes. Fermented foods like yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi, and kefir introduce probiotics. Live cultures that help restore and diversify the gut flora. And reducing processed sugar, refined carbs, and artificial additives prevents the overgrowth of harmful strains that contribute to inflammation and mood instability. Even more fascinating, these microbes can influence your cravings. When the bad bacteria dominate, they can send signals up the vagus nerve that push you to eat more sugar, more processed food, because that's what they thrive on. In a way, your microbiome can hijack your willpower, but the reverse is also true. When you feed the good guys, they reinforce better decisions. They support clarity, willpower, and a sense of inner alignment. This creates a feedback loop. Your gut bacteria influence your mood affects your decisions, and your decisions reshape your microbiome. And so the path to emotional healing is not always through deep introspection or complex medication. Sometimes it's as simple and as profound as healing the gut first. There's a powerful metaphor here. Just as you need diversity in thought, in relationships, and experiences to lead a rich emotional life, your microbiome needs diversity in food, in nutrients, in microbial species to create balance and vitality. The parallel is striking. Inner harmony mirrors outer nourishment. What you feed grows. That's true for your thoughts, and it's true for your bacteria. When people ask me what they can do to start feeling better emotionally, mentally, spiritually, I often say, begin with the gut. Because the gut is where your external choices meet your internal world. It's where biology meets emotion. It's where healing begins, not just for the body, but for the mind. So if you're feeling stuck in your mood, sluggish in your thoughts, or disconnected from joy, don't just look to your brain for answers. Look to your gut. The transformation may start there. Not in the form of a pill or a therapy session, but in the quiet, intentional decision to nourish the ecosystem that lives within you. You are never alone in your body. You are in constant dialogue with trillions of tiny allies. When you feed them wisely, they give back not just health, but hope, clarity, and balance. So let your next meal be a message to your mind, to your microbes, to your future self that you are choosing not just to survive, but to thrive from the inside out. When we talk about how food affects the way we feel, it's easy to focus on nutrients, calories, or even brain chemistry. But there's a more subtle, more insidious force at work, one that often flies under the radar: inflammation. Chronic, low-grade inflammation in the body, particularly in the gut, may be one of the most overlooked drivers of emotional imbalance today. And it's not just a physical issue, it's a psychological one. Now, inflammation itself isn't inherently bad. In fact, it's your body's way of protecting you. When you get a cut or an infection, inflammation is the immune system's response to heal and defend. But the problem arises when that process never shuts off. When it becomes chronic, and in the context of the gut, that's often exactly what happens. Quietly, slowly, and with real consequences for your mental and emotional well-being. The foods we eat play a major role in this. Diets high in refined sugar, ultra-processed foods, industrial seed oils, artificial additives, and preservatives don't just burden the body, they irritate the lining of the gut. Over time, this irritation can lead to what's known as leaky gut, a condition where the protective barrier of the intestinal wall becomes compromised. Tiny particles of undigested food, bacteria, and toxins leak into the bloodstream, triggering an immune response. What follows is systemic inflammation. The body goes on high alert, flooding your system with cytokines, chemical messengers that signal the immune system to respond. These cytokines don't just stay in the bloodstream, they travel, including to the brain. And when inflammatory cytokines reach the brain, they interfere with neurotransmitter production, particularly serotonin and dopamine. That means your ability to feel calm, motivated, and emotionally regulated becomes impaired by what's happening in your gut. You may not feel the inflammation directly. There might not be a rash, a fever, or pain, but emotionally, the symptoms often show up. Irritability, brain fog, fatigue, anxiety, and even depression. It's as if your nervous system is stuck in a low-level stress response. Everything feels harder, everything feels heavier, and often the root cause is hidden, not in your thoughts, but in your intestines. This is why the gut-brain connection is so revolutionary. It offers us a new way of understanding mood and mental health. Instead of viewing anxiety or depression as purely psychological conditions, we begin to see them as deeply biological as well. Conditions that don't just require therapy or medication, but lifestyle change, nutritional change, a shift in the very substances we use to build ourselves. There's something humbling about this. We often think of our thoughts as the origin of our suffering. But perhaps some of what we label as mental is actually physiological. Perhaps the fog of depression is not a failing of willpower, but the smoke of inflammation. Perhaps anxiety is the body's cry for healing, not just emotionally, but biologically. That awareness changes everything. It means that healing the mind may begin in the gut. That the journey to peace might start with your next meal. But there's a flip side to this as well. Just as the wrong foods create chaos, the right foods restore order. Anti-inflammatory foods like leafy greens, berries, turmeric, fatty fish, olive oil, and fermented vegetables can calm the fire in the gut. They help repair the intestinal lining, lower systemic inflammation, and support the microbiome. And when the inflammation goes down, the brain begins to function more clearly. Food stabilizes, energy returns, the emotional world feels less like a battlefield and more like home. This isn't magic. It's not even alternative. It's science. It's the intimate dialogue between food and feeling, between inflammation and emotion. And when we start listening to that dialogue, when we honor it with our choices, we begin to reclaim agency over our well-being. What's also remarkable is that this healing doesn't require a radical overhaul. It begins with awareness, with replacing just one processed meal a day with something fresh, vibrant, alive. It begins with noticing how you feel after certain foods, noticing your body's cues, your gut's responses, your mind's clarity or confusion. This is a form of emotional intelligence most of us were never taught. The intelligence of listening to inflammation. And beyond the physical and emotional, there's something philosophical at play here. Inflammation at its core is an overreaction. It's the body going into defense mode, sometimes unnecessarily. Isn't that how many of us live emotionally? Overreacting, bracing, on alert. Sometimes healing the body softens the mind. When you reduce inflammation, you create inner space. You make it easier to respond rather than react, to feel without being consumed. So the next time you're feeling off, before you analyze your mindset or question your purpose, take a closer look at what you're feeding your body. Because what you feed your gut becomes the chemistry of your brain. And the chemistry of your brain becomes the filter through which you see the world. Heal your gut, and the world may feel a little more forgiving, a little more manageable, a little more yours. Because peace isn't just a state of mind, it's also a state of biology. Let's talk about the vagus nerve, a structure you've likely never seen or felt, yet it's one of the most powerful forces shaping your emotional life, your clarity of thought, and your gut health. If you imagine your body as a conversation between mind and body, the vagus nerve is the telephone line. And depending on how it's functioning, that call can be one of harmony or miscommunication. The telephone line is a higher level. The telephone line is one with higher level logistics and communication. And depending on how it's functioning, that call can be one of harmony or miscommunication. The vagus nerve, Latin for, is exactly that. It's the longest cranial nerve in the body, starting at the base of the brain and traveling through the neck, heart, lungs, liver, and most importantly for us, the gut. It connects the brainstem to nearly every major organ, constantly transmitting a stream of information back and forth. And here's the part most people don't realize. About 80% of the communication goes from the gut to the brain, not the other way around. So when something is off in your digestive system, when your microbiome is imbalanced, when your gut is inflamed, or when digestion is impaired, it doesn't just stay there. Those disruptions send distress signals to the brain through the vagus nerve. And the brain, always alert to these messages, responds by triggering emotional and physiological changes. Anxiety, mood swings, fatigue, irritability, even a foggy sense of self. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The vagus nerve doesn't just passively carry messages, it plays an active role in regulating your stress response. A well-toned vagus nerve helps you recover from stress more quickly. It keeps your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest side of your physiology, strong. That means better sleep, more calm, improved digestion, and a more grounded emotional baseline. Now think about how we live. Constant stimulation, quick meals, shallow breathing, and high stress. These patterns weaken vagal tone. The body becomes sympathetic dominant, stuck in fight or flight. And when that happens, not only does your digestion suffer, but your ability to regulate emotions, maintain focus, and feel at peace takes a hit. This is why, in the context of the gut-brain connection, the vagus nerve is not just a physical structure, It's a spiritual metaphor. It's the path between intuition and thought, between sensation and story. And like any path, it can become blocked or overgrown, or it can be cleared and strengthened with care and intention. Let's get practical. There are many ways to strengthen vagal tone and support this connection. Deep diaphragmatic breathing is one of the most powerful tools, especially long exhalations, which stimulate the vagus nerve and signal to the brain that you are safe. Singing, humming, gargling, and chanting all create vibrations that stimulate vagal pathways in the throat. Cold exposure, like splashing cold water in the face or taking a short cold shower, also activates the vagus nerve and trains the body to handle stress more calmly. Even chewing slowly and mindfully when eating signals parasympathetic activation, and that changes everything about how you digest and how you feel after a meal. So in a way, how we eat is just as important as what we eat. When you rush through a meal, distracted or stressed, you shut down vagal tone. Digestion weakens. But when you sit, breathe, and truly engage with your food, you're turning the volume up on that conversation between gut and brain, and it's one rooted in safety, nourishment, and trust. This trust matters. Your brain is always asking your body, are we okay? And your body, through the vagus nerve, is always answering. The tone of that answer shapes your mood, your focus, and your ability to show up in life. A healthy vagus nerve whispers, yes, we're okay, keep going. But a weakened one screams, something's wrong, even when nothing is. And that's where anxiety, fear, and confusion flood the system, not because of an external threat, but because of a misfire in internal communication. This is why healing the gut, supporting the microbiome, and calming inflammation aren't just digestive goals. They're emotional ones. They bring the nervous system back into harmony. They rebuild that bridge of trust between the body and the mind. And once that bridge is strong, everything becomes easier. Thinking clearly, resting deeply, digesting fully, even loving more openly. So if you felt stuck emotionally or like your nervous system is always just a little on edge, I want you to remember this. Your vagus nerve may be trying to get your attention. It may be asking for more breath, more presence, more care. It may be reminding you that healing doesn't always start in the mind. Sometimes it starts with the body, with the breath, with the way you sit down to eat or sing in the car or take a moment of stillness in the morning. This isn't just biology, it's a form of wisdom. Your body knows the way. Your gut remembers what your mind forgets. And your vagus nerve is the thread that ties it all together. So listen to that thread. Strengthen the connection, because when the gut and the brain are speaking clearly, the whole self, body, mind, and spirit comes back into balance. And from that place, healing is not only possible, it's inevitable. Now that we understand how the vagus nerve forms the critical communication link between the gut and brain, it's time to look at what we're actually feeding this system. Because it's not just about mechanics, it's about nourishment. The food you eat is not simply fuel, it's information. It's instruction. It tells your body what to repair, what to grow, and how to feel. Think of it this way. Every bite of food is either supporting your mental and emotional balance or silently eroding it. And that influence starts in your gut. When we talk about a brain-boosting or mood-stabilizing diet, we're really talking about a gut-supporting one. The two are inseparable. Your digestive health is your emotional foundation, and food is the architect. Let's begin with the basics. The gut microbiome thrives on diversity. The more varied your diet, the more diverse your bacterial population, and diversity equals resilience. A resilient microbiome is better equipped to handle stress, regulate inflammation, and support neurotransmitter production. In contrast, a monotonous processed diet creates a fragile system, one that overreacts, underperforms, and throws your emotional equilibrium off balance. Whole, fiber-rich foods are your greatest allies. Soluble fiber found in oats, legumes, fruits, and vegetables acts as prebiotic fuel. It feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut, allowing them to flourish and do their work, producing short-chain fatty acids that reduce inflammation, strengthening the gut lining, and even influencing the release of serotonin and dopamine. Fermented foods are another key piece of the puzzle. Yogurt with live cultures, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso. These foods don't just taste good, they deliver living bacteria straight to your gut. These probiotics help crowd out harmful pathogens, enhance nutrient absorption, and fine-tune your immune response. It's a living ecosystem you're feeding, and these foods act like gardeners, cultivating, pruning, balancing. But just as important as what you add is what you remove. Sugar is the great disruptor. Refined sugar feeds the wrong bacteria, those that trigger inflammation, increase gut permeability, and contribute to mental fog and emotional volatility. And it's not just sweets. Processed grains, sugary drinks, packaged snacks, these are all part of the same equation. They hijack the microbiome and rewrite your brain chemistry in a way that leads to cravings, instability, and even despair. There's a deeper layer to this as well. Certain nutrients are especially critical to brain function, and they're absorbed primarily through the gut. Take omega-3 fatty acids, for example. These are potent anti-inflammatory agents that improve cell membrane health in the brain. Without a well-productioning gut, your ability to absorb them diminishes. The same goes for B vitamins, magnesium, zinc, all vital for mood, focus, and emotional regulation. So your gut isn't just digesting, it's acting as the gatekeeper for mental wellness. And let's not forget the powerful role of polyphenols, plant compounds found in colorful fruits, vegetables, green tea, and dark chocolate. These compounds support microbial diversity, reduce oxidative stress, and enhance neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and grow. When your diet is rich in polyphenols, you're not just feeding your body, you're expanding your capacity for clarity, learning, and emotional balance. But food is more than nutrients. It's ritual, it's memory, it's connection. What you eat reflects your relationship with yourself. When you eat in a rush, when you numb out with processed food, when meals are mindless, your gut takes the hit, but so does your emotional integrity. On the other hand, when you prepare meals with care, when you sit down without distraction, when you eat to nourish rather than to cope, something profound shifts, not just in your physiology, but in your sense of presence. You start to feel more rooted, more whole. This isn't about perfection, it's about intention. The goal isn't to overhaul your diet overnight, but to bring a new level of awareness to it. Ask yourself, is this meal bringing me closer to balance or further from it? Am I eating to support my gut or to silence my emotions? These questions aren't judgmental, they're empowering because every small shift compounds. Every gut healing choice makes it easier to think clearly, feel deeply, and respond calmly. What's remarkable is how quickly the body begins to respond. Within days of shifting toward whole anti-inflammatory foods, people report better digestion, better sleep, and perhaps most importantly, better moods. The fog lifts, the reactivity fades, and for many it feels like coming home to themselves again, because food is not just physical, it's emotional, it's relational. It's a message that says, I care enough to nourish the part of me that no one sees, but that feels everything. So feed yourself accordingly. Feed your gut, not just for health, but for harmony. Because the greatest act of self-care is in the supplements or the hacks. It's in the quiet, everyday choices you make on your plate, in your kitchen, in your heart. The gut listens to every decision. Let those decisions speak love, speak strength, and speak peace. And your body and your mind will answer in kind if everything we've discussed so far, the microbiome, inflammation, the vagus nerve, the role of food, paints a picture of the gut as an emotional command center, that our lifestyle habits are the rhythms that keep that system in tune. And that brings us to something that's often underestimated in conversations about mental health and digestion, the importance of sleep, movement, and stress management. These are not add-ons or secondary concerns. They are central to the gut-brain dialogue. In fact, they might be the bridge between awareness and transformation. Because what you do between meals, the way you breathe, move, and rest, affects how your gut processes food, how your brain processes emotion, and how your body responds to life itself. Let's start with sleep. Most people think of sleep as a nightly shutdown, but biologically it's a powerful reset, especially for the gut. During deep sleep, your body activates what's known as the glymphatic system in the brain, a sort of waste removal process. And your digestive tract engages in repair and regeneration. But when sleep is cut short, or when the quality is poor, your gut pays the price. Lack of sleep disrupts your circadian rhythm, which in turn alters your microbiome. Studies have shown that even just 2 nights of poor sleep can shift your gut bacteria toward a more inflammatory profile. And this isn't just a theoretical risk, it has real-world consequences. Mood swings, poor concentration, increased anxiety and cravings for sugar and processed carbs all spike when sleep is compromised. The gut-brain loop starts to spiral downward. And often, people try to manage those symptoms with caffeine or sugar, which only further disturbs the gut ecosystem. Movement, too, plays a critical role, and not just in terms of burning calories or building muscle. Regular, moderate exercise enhances gut motility, how efficiently your digestive system moves food through the tract. It supports the growth of beneficial bacteria, lowers inflammation, and increases production of short-chain fatty acids. But what's even more compelling is how exercise directly impacts the brain through the gut. When you move your body, particularly in rhythmic ways, walking, cycling, dancing, you stimulate the vagus nerve. You lower cortisol, the stress hormone. You balance insulin levels. And this cascade of effects translates into more stable moods, better sleep, and clearer thinking. You're not just exercising your body, you're tuning the instrument that connects your emotions to your biology. And then there's stress. Chronic stress is one of the most damaging forces to both the gut and the brain. When you live in a heightened state of alert, rushing from task to task, constantly responding to notifications, suppressing emotions, you shift your body into sympathetic dominance. You reduce blood flow to the gut, impair digestion, and alter the microbial landscape. It's like sending your gut the message: now is not the time to heal. And that message, repeated day after day, becomes the background noise of your physiology. It shows up in bloating, constipation, brain fog, irritability, but it also shows up in a deeper way, in a disconnection from yourself. You begin to lose the ability to listen to your body, to feel at home in your own skin. The gut-brain axis doesn't just break down, it falls silent. The good news is this can be reversed, and it doesn't require dramatic changes. Small daily habits have profound cumulative effects. Prioritizing sleep, even by just 30 minutes more a night. Incorporating a 20-minute walk after meals. Practicing mindfulness or deep breathing before eating. Creating boundaries around screen time. These aren't luxuries, they're forms of internal hygiene. They clear the space for your gut and brain to communicate without interference. And more than that, they restore a sense of trust, because healing is, at its core, an act of self-trust. You begin to believe again that your body is capable of balance, that your mind is not broken, that with the right support, nutritional, emotional, and behavioral, you can feel like yourself again. Not a chemically enhanced version of yourself, not a numbed or distracted version, but the real, grounded, emotionally attuned version. And this is where lifestyle becomes a form of medicine, not in a vague or abstract way, but in a clear, measurable sense. Every hour of rest, every conscious breath, every step you take is either building or breaking your internal rhythm. And your gut, that quiet center of intelligence, is listening to it all. We live in a world that asks us to move fast, push harder, ignore our needs. But the gut asks for the opposite. It asks for rhythm, for slowness, for presence. And in giving it those things, we don't just heal our digestion, we heal our sense of self. So if you've been waiting for the perfect diet or the right moment to fix your health, know this. The most transformative changes begin in the smallest of rituals. Your next meal, your next breath, your next night of sleep. That's where healing lives, because the gut doesn't need perfection, it needs consistency. And from that consistency, the mind finds clarity and the spirit peace.